Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics. In this video, I'd like to discuss what seems to me to be a fairly unique situation. I think in my experience, I'm fairly confident it is unique. As we gear up for the general election and everyone gets tribal, putting aside minor differences for the benefit of the party, a great many former Conservative MPs are actually advocating to people to vote for another party. A party that's not the one that they represented. But first, if you want to watch more of my videos, then please click the subscribe button and also the bell notification icon next to it. So, although polls suggest that Boris Johnson has a good chance of gaining a majority, it does rather depend on getting small majorities in a lot of marginal constituencies. In other words, if even a modest number of normally non-voters decides to brave the December gloom to get down to their polling station, then those seats could easily swing to another party. Of course, if they're not planning on voting at the point at which I put that out, they've only got a few hours left to register. But you never know. And in an election where we have had a lot more people registering quite late on as well, you may end up with a situation where an unexpected number of people do go out and vote. And as I say, a lot of the predictions for Boris Johnson's victory on a constituency by constituency basis are looking at them winning by, you know, a few hundred in some cases, a couple of thousand in others. It doesn't take many people to just turn up and vote tactically to wipe that out. And it isn't just about raw numbers of seats. Of course, Boris Johnson wants to win a majority so that he can push ahead with the insane agenda of dismantling the country completely. But, I mean, the way it normally would work is, okay, you're going to lose this seat, this seat, this seat, but you gain a whole load of other ones. So the net effect is it's a gain to you and you get your majority. And you think, yeah, I'll take that. However, we're looking at the situation where a number of key Brexit driving forces, not just faceless backbenchers, are at risk of losing their seats. Dominic Grieve, for example, who is the dim-witted and very pro-Brexit Foreign Secretary, is facing a very real danger of losing his seat. Ian Taylor, who is the Conservative MP for Esher and Walton before Dominic Grieve, has been telling people to vote Liberal Democrats on the basis of stopping Brexit. This is also a constituency which voted by a significant margin to remain in 2016 Brexit referendum. So although the seat looks pretty safe, I mean, if you look at the past voting record, you go, what are you on about, Phil? This is as safe as a Tory seat gets. Polls for the constituency look very uncomfortable for Grieve, because not only will Boris Johnson's lurch to the far right be putting off moderate Conservative voters who would find a not unacceptable home in the Liberal Democrats, but a population that largely voted to remain may also be keen to vote tactically with a Brexit vote to prevent an arch-Brexiteer remaining in government. Frankly, it looks like the only thing saving Grieve at the moment is that Labour did not enter the Remain alliance. And so they will be taking votes away from, you know, the anti-Tory candidate that otherwise tactical voters would all get behind. But this is a seat very much in the balance, with a poll suggesting that Dominic Grieve would probably still win, but less than by 3,000 votes. Now, compared to his majority at the moment, that is a massive reduction. And the fact that the former Conservative MP for that constituency is calling for people to not vote Tory is not going to do his chances any good at all. Another former Conservative MP, though much more recent, as he's only just stepped down, is Keith Simpson. He says that he is opposed to the direction in which the party has travelled under Boris Johnson. He said, and I quote, "The one thing you can rely upon is that he will let you down and he comes with a lot of baggage." He also criticised Johnson for removing the whip from the likes of Ken Clarke when his cabinet is filled with MPs who regularly rebelled against Theresa May, including Johnson himself. It's rank hypocrisy. He described Boris Johnson as someone who had never delivered in the past and bolts at the first sign of trouble. Some of the former Conservative MPs, though, are not simply advocating the election of a non-Tory, but are being that non-Tory candidate themselves. So Dominic Grieve is probably the most famous of this crop, as the driving force behind much of the work of backbenchers to have prevented us crashing out of the EU without a deal so far. Whether they're ultimately successful remains to be seen, but so far they've done a sterling job. So the MP for Beaconsfield, or Beaconsfield, I think it may be pronounced down south, had represented the Conservative Party in this safe Tory seat since 1997. But he's now going to stand as an independent. Unlike some of the other Tory rebels that have decided to step down rather than stand against their own party, he's gone, no, I'm going to oppose Brexit here. Now, ordinarily, you'd think he'd have no chance of upsetting the apple cart, but for a few things. So the first is that Dominic Grieve is a very well-known and personally popular MP in his seat. Of course, he's not an MP at the moment. Although moderate Conservatives may not vote tactically to stop Johnson, they nonetheless don't necessarily like what he's done to the party, and they may see voting for Grieve, who would still support moderate Conservatives' policies, as a good compromise. After all, if in the next Parliament Boris Johnson loses his power base and there's another leadership election and a more moderate leader comes to the fore, there's nothing to stop Dominic Grieve rejoining the party. After all, well, he wants to be in the party. You know, he had the whip removed from him, and it would be a way of basically voting for a Conservative MP for the future, they could see it as. The second thing is that the constituency did vote to remain in the 2016 Brexit referendum. It was only narrowly, but that means there could also be moderate Conservative voters who are not only appalled at the extremism of Johnson, but not at all happy about supporting his Brexit either. And the third thing is the Liberal Democrats have stood aside for Grieve. They never had any realistic chance anyway. It's a very strong Conservative voting population, but they wanted to give someone that will oppose a hard Brexit every opportunity to frustrate Boris Johnson. If only there were a Brexit Party candidate to sweep up hardline Leave voters, it'd be looking really good. But it is still a seat that could see the Conservative lose if the moderates turn out in force. Now, personally, as someone on the left wing, I'd often regard Conservatives as being innately disrespectful of the people they pretend to serve. After all, if they really believed in their policies, if they believed they'd be popular, they wouldn't need to lie about them. You know, they would not make promises that they don't intend to keep. But it is worth bearing in mind that there are a lot of Conservative voters who don't believe in Brexit. There are a lot who perhaps do, but don't think that acting unlawfully is a price worth paying. They don't approve of Russian interference in our public polls, even if they liked the result. They don't approve of inciting hatred and violence against MPs, even if they disapprove of the intended victims. In abandoning the centre-right, you know, to chase the Brexit Party votes on the extreme right, Johnson has left massive numbers of voters without a natural home, without feeling that the party has moved on from them, has left them behind. I mean, sure, I expect many of those to hold their nose and vote Conservative anyway. They know they'll be voting for something they don't like, but they just believe it's the least of all evils. But there are also probably others who are prepared to vote for a candidate that they think gives them what the Conservatives, you know, used to be. Former Conservative MPs like Dominic Grieve and David Gauke provide an easy transfer of vote because, like I said before, you know, if the party leadership changes and becomes more moderate again, there's nothing to stop those MPs, if they become MPs, rejoining the party, at which point they're Conservative MPs again. Even Liberal Democrats playing on their role in a David Cameron coalition may appeal as well in other constituencies where you don't have a former Conservative MP standing, and could easily make the difference in a Liberal Democrat Conservative marginal. So I hope you found the video interesting. If you did, don't forget to click the like button. And if you'd like to support the channel further, then please click the Patreon link for details as well. And until next time, I'll see you later.